Hi, gals.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Good to not see you too. So I think the best thing I can do is give you a status report of where we are, and then you guys can ask questions. So, in terms of where we're at right now, so Senator Kurder has the previous version of the bill that we ran last year, and I've sent that to her staff. What I'm doing right now is pulling up what we did last year, which was Senate Bill 5571. It was a mandate bill requiring composting. It got all the way to executive action in the policy committee, but did not clear the committee. Mr. Dawson has an email from me that has the links to last year's hearings. You are encouraged to go ahead and look at in essence, what I'd call game film of the video from the previous two hearings, so you can get a feel for what a hearing looks and feels like, and we can go from there. So what's going to happen here is Kurder is going to read the bill. What I was told, and I think what you guys were told, was they want to change some of the mandatory language into more inclusive, as in if you have a garbage recycler in your jurisdiction, in your city or county, then we try to encourage them to pick up and do the recycling for the school district if they're not doing it already. We'll have to let Kurder's staff look at the bill and get back to us with what will happen. Now I'm going to turn that off, so that's okay. Then the next step is actually trying to get a bill introduced and scheduled fairly quickly. So that's where we're at in the Senate. In the House side, I haven't done anything. I'm in the process of contacting our legislators to see if they're interested in picking up the House version again and running it, and I'll get back to you by the next broadcast. That's the status report. We start the session on Monday, and we run 60 days till March 9th. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I have a pretty short and sweet presentation. I'll take questions, and if you've got questions, this is a good time to do that.
So I guess I'll have the first question of when would you assume a hearing would take place? Are you thinking like the hearings aren't going to be starting until like the 3rd or 4th week of January?
We have hearings starting Monday. The hearing for this bill would be sometime after the 15th, sometime in the 15th to the 25th.
Okay.
And once I have a tighter window of hearing schedule, I'll get it out to you, so you guys can figure out the logistics of attending.
And just so you know, for this year, I am considering also either, because like last year we would just take everyone to the one hearing. Mm-hmm. But if there is a version in the House and in the Senate, and we have 2 separate hearings, I can come down twice and just take half my kids to the Senate and then half my kids to the House version. I would just need to know that beforehand, so yeah, I don't take half my kids and then not have a House hearing and the other half don't get the opportunity. But,
well, that's what happened last year. By the time they scheduled it as a courtesy hearing, we had a very uncomfortable conversation with the class saying, well, nothing's going to happen in this hearing, and y'all opted out. No. So yeah, let's work on that. I have to figure out, Kurder, your House members are, let's see here, McBride
and Roger Goodman.
And the second one?
Roger Goodman.
Let me get to work on that. I'll report back next week.
Okay.
All right. Next question.
So have you had a chance to talk to Senator Goodman as well, or are you going to be getting to that next week?
I'll be getting to that on Monday when we go back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you kind of outlined a little bit about what's going to happen with this bill within the next couple of weeks, but what do you think is the general timeline of this bill up to when we as a class will be visiting the Capitol here?
Well, if they just want to redo the bill as is and schedule a hearing, we could move fairly quickly in days. If the senator wants to redraft the bill and change it, that requires staff time, and that requires the committee staff to look at it, and then the code reviser to create a new version of the bill. It's entirely possible we'll just hear the bill again and then amend it at committee. Those are all steps I have to discuss with the senator and the chair of the Senate Education Committee.
So what should we be working on right now? Other than, like you said, watch the past film and just kind of just prepare for what a hearing would look like and start preparing like a hearing, like an argument presentation to give. Is that what we should be doing right now?
That's what I would do. I would go ahead and have the class look at committee hearings in the past, and then and go, the TVW links go right to the committee hearings in question, and that will give you an idea of what happens. TVW has a Teach with TVW component that talks about how to comport yourself at a legislative hearing. Ross Hunter has a how to talk to a legislator as a lobbyist, citizen advocate, and that one's available on YouTube, and it may even be available on his home. No, I don't think it's on his page anymore. He's no longer in the legislature, but it is on YouTube. I can dig the link out if you would like me to, and you can look at it as well.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
So knowing that Cooter's bill went pretty far last session, do we have a pretty optimistic view of how far we will get this session?
I think we can be guardedly optimistic. You're gonna or lobby. You're gonna have to use the word lobby on the search window.
Okay.
I'm talking to technical wizards here at TVW. To answer your question, yeah, the question last year and what killed the bill getting out of committee was an unknown price tag, and there was some opposition from the superintendent of public instruction's office about the class. We don't have the money to implement, so what do? There are ways around this, and that's where we should go. Last year, the sponsor was Senator Guy Palumbo. And while he sponsored the bill, he was pretty disengaged on the topic, unfortunately, and that's why I think now that Senator Cooter is actively stepping up and wants to work the bill, I think we should have a higher percentage of success of at least possibly getting a floor vote and getting it over to the chamber, maybe even further. But right now, it's just a matter of Senator Cooter to review the bill and decide how much more he wants to do. You went past the one. Lobbying your legislators, part 1, I think is the one you want to look at. Further down. That one, lobbying your legislative, part 1. Oh, that's from the state of New York. Never mind. I'm looking at YouTube video that Tech Wizards are sorry. They're trying to find the Ross Hunter clip, so you guys can see it. And if nothing else, send the link to you. So that's it. Yeah, we should always be optimistic. We're here to win. We are here to succeed, and so we prepare well and we do what's necessary to make the senator happy. Every day next week, I will contact the office to say, basically, like from Big Bang Theory, Patty, I'm going to keep asking the office if they got the bill done yet. That's one of the things that I do as a lobbyist is we pester people to make sure they do things so they get done on time. So that's one of the things that I do as a lobbyist. As a class, we can certainly have you guys get ready to deliver presentation materials to her office in advance of the hearing, and that's the next big step is going to be what bill are we actually looking at, and then what is your presentation going to look like. And then getting that to the committee and to the senator on time for the hearing would be of use. One of the problems that we've always had with committees is sometimes they don't take outside PowerPoints. So I think the workaround is that we have the senator make it her PowerPoint, and then we'll see if we can get it presented before the committee. So that's
Okay.
the game plan on your presentation materials.
So should we, when we're starting to present this, should we be looking at arguing for the same Senate Bill 5571, or should we be arguing for changes we would like to see in that? That would be the amendments. Because like you said, if they just offer this, the passed bill and then come up with amendments in committee, how would we help or argue for those amendments? You know what?
That's a bigger process piece, and that's a good question. A lot of times, what there's a saying in lobbying called "write the substitute bill first," which is to say you have the requirements of the proposal, the things that you must have, are in the substitute bill that you will propose. Everything else that you want, plus the necessary items, are going to be in the original bill. So when they want to talk about amending it or narrowing the scope, you've already have the pieces of the bill that would be nice to have but not necessary, and you keep the necessary items. You know, that is how you get a bill through the process. You anticipate the opposition. The opposition in 5571 was from the state of Washington school districts, risk of unfunded mandate, and from the garbage and recycling companies. We don't want to take on more charity work. We're in the business of collecting and recycling. We need to be paid for that. Composting is another component of recycling, where we have mixed results on composting around the state. So I think that's why Senator Cruder wants to make it an opt-in proposal rather than a shall rather than must. Must is mandatory, shall is participatory, and those are kind of legislative grammar, and that's the things you have to keep in mind. So my advice is to do the following: is to go ahead and write your presentations to the current bill. When we see the changes, we can modify presentations and we can adapt new language as needed. So why don't we start from a position of strength before we try to talk ourselves into, well, what are we going to actually get accomplished? They haven't told us they hate the bill. They just told us that they weren't sure how to like the bill. Well, let's get them to like the bill. And one way to do that is to give them all the reasons on why it's a good idea, and then have them come back and ask us, well, if we change some of the parameters, will that work for you? Because if we know what those parameters are, and they're going to be mostly opt-in, if you guys can live with that as a possibility, then we should do that. If you can't, if you must have the bill as is, then make the case for why we should hear the bill and move it forward. A parallel to this is happening with water legislation, the so-called Hearst fix. Tribes and environmentalists have a set of mandatory philosophical and legal principles that they are fighting for, and that is to the consternation of the legislature, ecology, and the governor, who want to weaken water law to allow more development in rural areas. It is a very thorny and complicated issue, and that you'll find that it's not always that it's a policy of good versus bad. Sometimes it's just a difference of what I want versus what you want. And if I have the votes, I'm going to get my way. The trick for legislative success is to make sure that everyone thinks it's a great idea, and there isn't a zero-sum game problem. That it's actually it's just a matter of creating the best solution. That's the best I can do at this moment in time. I have to get the senator to focus on this and get back to us with some suggested language.
Okay, great.
So you mentioned the superintendent of public instruction a little bit in this. They're a big part in helping this bill pass, but if we intend to make this an opt-in program, do you believe that they would be more on board with it, and was last year a little bit more of a budget issue?
It was a budget issue. They were very reluctant. And the superintendent of public instruction is interesting. While they are the administrator for the state's 295 school districts, school district monies and operations are controlled by school boards, by locally elected officials that run and hold seats before the Lake Washington School District. So the directors and the superintendent of Lake Washington are actually in charge of the money. So when you create a statewide program or system, SPI is a money pass through. So if you and here's the thick, lengthy accounting explanation. So there's a pool of money called MSOC, which is maintenance and school operation costs. That's not Mr. Dawson. It's the principals, it's the janitors, it's the IT staff, it's all the people that everything from administrators to school police officers are inside MSOC, and that money is appropriated by the legislature, and then it's sent out through SPI to the districts. Most of the MSOC money is done on a per capita basis, which is X number of dollars per student. And then so the district gets a Y number of dollar, which is X times population. The big debate in McCleary and in school funding is, what do you do about MSOC? And what do you do also about teacher compensation? Do you give districts pools of money, or do you highlight specifically what the money is supposed to do for teachers? Washington's had a hybrid. You know, Mr. Dawson, for example, can tell you exactly what the state of Washington expects of him in terms of national certification, other testing, ongoing training and education. And new teachers, of course, it's master's degrees and really intensive training in the beginning of their careers. Now, some of that stuff is funded by the state. Some of it comes out of the pocket of the teacher. And when we come up with it, now, as I said, it's a big, long explanation. I apologize. But when we get to a new program, such as composting and recycling, the admin side of the district says, holy cow, I don't know how we can pay for this. So what we were trying to do is since we have garbage collectors and recyclers doing composting, we're asking them would they consider to put bins at schools. And furthermore, we're asking school districts, since you're already paying for garbage and recycling, how much more is composting going to be? The argument that I tried to advance last year, and I don't think I did a good enough job, was the following. You have a line item for garbage, right? Are y'all with me? They have a line, you know, somebody's paying the garbage bill at Lake Washington, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all we're doing is we're changing the number of types of garbage, not the money number. So we're adding to garbage collection, recycling, and composting. Since you're already doing recycling, adding another plastic bin for composting is not going to be that prohibitively expensive, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
That's an example. So, and then in other places, they might, you know, rural high schools may want to compost on site. You know, I don't know who that would be, but those, you know, those are examples of where it will make sense. There may be some school districts like in Chelan, in Eastern Washington, or you know, Forks or Nia Bay, where it's just not financially feasible because of the distances involved to transport garbage and recycling. You know, I don't know if you know this, if you have garbage in Nia Bay, the Makah Indian Reservation, you have to hike it 65 miles back up to Forks to go to a landfill. So we got stuff like that all around the state, and those were the issues that the opponents threw up at the last second at the hearing, and those are things we just have to say we don't have to solve that problem. I'm telling you, we have to solve our problem and then remind people that school districts have lots of smart people who do this stuff for a living all the time. And we're just asking for, you know, besides the black garbage bin and the blue recycling bin, we're asking for the green composting bin. And I think it's that simple. And I think we should try to figure out how to make our presentation crisp, easy to understand, and solves a problem. Next one.
Thank you.
So that's something that we should just focus on also, because I know last year we didn't do a great job in our presentation of just, you know, we're not asking to spend more money, just change how you're already spending the same money. So that's something that we should be focusing on this year for our presentation as well.
And you might want to go research with the superintendent's office how much they're spending and what are they spending on garbage and recycling.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We can do that, yeah, with our district. Nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, we're about here to hit lunchtime. So
wrap it up here.
Okay. So yeah. So is there any last things that you need for us to do, or should we just kind of start our presentation and wait to see what actually Senator Cutterer does with the idea?
Yeah, let's just, because it'll be easier for us to edit materials than to start from scratch, in my opinion.
All right, perfect. So we will get started on that and wait to hear about where she goes and the direction she takes this in.
All righty.
So thank you very much, and I'll get my camera issues fixed for next week. We're going to meet on Friday again. So all
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.